Hey everyone, and welcome. So if you're in the project management world, you know the PMBOK guide is basically our go-to playbook, right? But what if I told you the next chapter isn't just a refresh, it's a total rewrite? We're about to dive into the upcoming 8th edition, and trust me, it's not just an update. It's a revolution in how we think about and deliver value.
So let me just ask you this straight up. Does your project management playbook feel a little, well, obsolete? I mean, we're living in a world of nonstop change, with AI popping up everywhere. The old rules, they're being completely torn up. Seriously, what we called success yesterday just isn't going to cut it tomorrow.
All right, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at why things had to change in the first place. Then we'll take a quick trip from the super strict PMBOK 6 to the much more flexible PMBOK 7. After that, we'll get into the main event, PMBOK Guide 8, and its huge new focus on value. And you're going to love this. We'll cover the two big game changers, sustainability and AI, and what they mean for your role.
Okay, so first things first, why the big shakeup? Well, let's be honest. Today's projects aren't these neat, tidy little boxes anymore. They're messy, they're complicated, and everyone's watching. You just can't use a one-size-fits-all, cookie-cutter approach. It just doesn't work. The PMBOK guide, it had to change. It needed to become a much more agile, responsive toolkit for people like us.
So, to really get where we're going, we've got to look back at where we've been. Think about PMBOK 6. That thing was like a super detailed turn-by-turn roadmap. It told you exactly what to do and when. But then, along came PMBOK 7. And whoa, that was a huge change. It basically threw out the map and handed you a compass and a set of principles. The idea was to empower you to figure out the best path forward.
And this is really the key difference. PMBOK 6 was all about the how-to, a rigid set of processes you had to follow. But PMBOK 7, it completely flipped the script. It was all about the what to think about, giving you 12 guiding principles to shape your decisions. It was a massive shift from being just a rulebook to being a whole new mindset.
Okay, so if PMBOK 6 was the old-school paper map and PMBOK 7 was the compass, what's PMBOK 8? Think of it as your smart GPS. It's got the guiding principles of the compass, but it also brings back some of the practical, structured guidance of the map. And it's using all this data to find you the best possible route. And the destination? That's the most important part. The destination is always, always value.
So how does this whole GPS thing actually work? Well, PMBOK 8 really is the best of both worlds. It keeps the flexibility we loved from the 7th edition, but it brings back some of that structure we kind of missed, these project management focus areas. Yeah, things like initiating, planning, executing, the stuff that gives us a solid framework. And get this, tailoring your approach isn't just a nice to have anymore. It's absolutely essential. Plus, your new GPS is getting live updates from two massive new data streams, sustainability and AI.
All right, listen up, because if you only remember one thing today, make it this: value. Value is the new North Star. That's it. This whole shift is happening because stakeholders, they want more than just on time and on budget. They want to see real, tangible impact. It's not about just checking boxes anymore. It's about celebrating the actual difference we make in the world. It's a huge shift from just producing outputs to creating meaningful outcomes, from just doing projects to having a real purpose.
Okay, let's make sure we're all on the same page with the lingo. First up, an output. An output is simply the thing you build. It's the product, the service, the tangible result. So let's say you build a new bridge. The bridge itself, that's your output. Pretty straightforward, right?
Okay, so you've got the output. Next up is the outcome. This is the direct result of that output. The bridge is built, so what happens? Well, traffic congestion goes down. That's the outcome. It's the immediate effect of the thing you made.
And that brings us to the most important piece of the puzzle, value. Value is the ultimate so what of your project. It answers the big question. So the bridge is the output. Less traffic is the outcome. But the value? The value is economic growth, a better quality of life for the whole community. That is the new gold standard for success.
You want a perfect, real-world example of this? The PMBOK guide points to the Sydney Opera House. If you just looked at the project plan, it was a total disaster. Way over budget, years behind schedule. But look at it today. It's a global icon, a UNESCO World Heritage Site that brings in massive cultural and economic value. That's the kind of big-picture thinking PMBOK 8 wants us to adopt.
And that idea of long-term value, it's the perfect segue into what's next. Because PMBOK 8 doesn't just stop there, it leans right into the future. It's tackling two of the biggest, most disruptive forces out there, sustainability and, you guessed it, AI. And trust me, this is where things get really, really interesting.
So let's start with sustainability. Now, in PMBOK 8, this isn't some fluffy, let's plant a tree kind of thing. No, it's all about the triple bottom line. What does that mean? It means every single project decision has to be weighed against its impact on three things: social equity, the environment, and the economy. It's about being a truly responsible leader.
And to make this practical, the guide gives us a really simple three-step framework to follow. First, you minimize any negative impacts. Then, you compensate or offset what you can't avoid. And finally, you work to restore what was impacted. It's a super clear roadmap for making our projects more sustainable, step by step.
All right, now for the other big one, the elephant in the room, artificial intelligence. I know what you're thinking. Is a robot going to take my job? Well, according to the PMBOK guide, the answer is a clear no. It's not here to replace us. It's here to give us superpowers. Seriously, it's a tool that can boost our skills, automate all the boring stuff, and help us find insights we never could have found on our own.
And just like with sustainability, the guide gives us a simple three-step strategy for adopting AI. First, automation. This is for the simple, repetitive stuff, like generating reports. Next is assistance. This is where AI helps you with analysis, like drafting a risk register. And finally, augmentation. This is the really cool strategic stuff, like using AI to model and optimize your entire project portfolio for maximum value. It's a clear path from simple tasks to high-level strategy.
So after all that, what's the bottom line? What does this all mean for you? Well, your role is changing, big time. You're not just a project manager anymore. You're evolving into a value delivery leader. You're moving beyond being a taskmaster. Now you're a strategist, a change agent, a true creator of value.
Okay, let's do a quick recap of the key takeaways. First, value is the goal. End of story. Second, you've got this awesome blend of flexible principles and a practical framework. Third, sustainability and AI, they're not just buzzwords anymore. They are core to what we do. Fourth, tailoring your approach is non-negotiable. And finally, leadership isn't just a role. It's a behavior that everyone on the team can and should demonstrate.
So to put it all in a nutshell, the standard has finally caught up with reality. And that reality is that projects are the engines that drive sustainable value in a world that's just getting more complex and more tech-driven every single day.
So I'll leave you with this one final thought. The guide has evolved. The real question is, are you ready to evolve with it? Are you ready to make that leap from being a project manager to becoming a true value delivery leader? Because the future of our profession, well, it's in your hands.